Hello, this is Panda Consulting's ArcGIS workshop. I'm Frank Conkling, and this time we're going to do something a little bit different. Usually we go and focus on the data and maintaining the data, editing the data and such. This time we're going to talk about creating before and after maps, which goes and documents and shares with others what we've done to the data. All right. We have a lot of clients who are asking us, how do we do this? And Esri's gone and put together a geoprocessing tool, and we're going to dig into it a little bit more to show you how to actually do that. So before we start, again, as usual, we want to go and point out the QR code in the lower right corner of the screen that you see right now. Will take you to the Panic Consulting website, which will tell you who we are, what we do, why we do it, how we do it. And also at the very bottom of that link, you'll have a sign up area for our monthly newsletters, which gives us tips and tricks, links over to the blog, and such. Again, just a quick reminder, Panic Consulting is an ESRI business partner. We have the parcel management specialty designation. We are the first one in the country to get that. We have release ready specialty and state and local specialty. So let's look at what we're going to do today. The topics generally are going to be talking about how do you produce a before and after map out of the parcel fabric. And we're going to look at sort of what's required on here. What do you have to have in order to be able to do this? Then we're going to look at the export parcel record features geoprocessing tool. And so and what it does on there, not just the tool, but what it does. And then we're going to look at the layout configuration and sort of work through what's really involved in doing this and can you integrate this into the workflow when you're going and doing editing? And should you go and do that? So requirements, pretty simple. You need a ArcGIS Parcel Fabric. All right. That could be a file geodatabase based implementation or an enterprise implementation. It really doesn't matter. However, to actually run the geoprocessing tool, you will need a file geodatabase into which you can export features. Because what happens is it doesn't necessarily use live data, but rather it goes and takes the information that's associated with a record and exports it out and goes in and builds it that way. All right. So let's look at this. And I'm going to go over to ArcGIS Pro with a parcel fabric in there and say, here is my, in this case, this is a this is a file geodatabase parcel fabric that I'm dealing with. Just to let you know, it's got about 500,000 parcels in it, but it is a file geodatabase system. And you can see in here, if I look at the parcel fabric properties, that the feature classes I have, or let's do it this way, the parcel types that I have parcels, I have blocks, I have subdivisions, lots, and hydro. So you see the corresponding elements over here. I have blocks, hydro, and such. That's in the parcel fabric. Well, in that file geodatabase that I have and that I use and create, it uses something similar to that, in that it goes and makes sure that it has the same sort of structure so that it can go and export those out. Let's sort of go through and look at possibly how to go and do this. So let's go in here and say let's go and take and create a record. And this record, so this record can be demo. Let's call it a merge demo. All right. And this is a merge, and we can put a date on here, and we'll create it. And then what I'll do is I can go and merge these two parcels together. Now, when I do that merge, all right, in the parcel fabric, it will go and make some changes in here. I can go and merge it into a new feature. I'm going to go and tell it to make sure you keep historic. That's what the keep original features is. I'm not going to use a template. I'm going to use one of these two existing parcels and say merge everything into that new parcel and use that from this point forward. And I'll go and I'll merge it together. So I have merged that together. And if I actually turn on my historic elements here, I can see that I have now inside of here, I have a single parcel. I have a historic line. It's made this line historic. It's gone and given me two historic parcels. Now, just sort of a refresher on how the parcel fabric works is that the record that I created has a global ID, an identifier. That global ID basically is this number right here. It's often called a global unique identifier or GUID, GUID, and that's actually stored in the created by record attribute field of those things that I create. Now, for those things that I mark historic, for example, the historic line and these other historic parcels here, that same GUID, that same global ID is then stored in the retired by record attribute field on those things that I mark as historic. So in here, this is the same global ID, and here's the same global ID here. So what the parcel fabric has done is marked and decided, okay, here's all of these things. Here's what's new. Here's what's marked historic and retired on here. And it goes and handles it by using that the the record global ID, the GUID, and using that to go and relate everything together. Now, what the 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 geoprocessing tool that we have does is it actually goes and looks and says, okay, let me have a record, and you have to select the record. That's one of the things you have to do is I have to go in here and I have to go and say, well, let's select this record here. Now that I have it selected, it will show me over here that I have one record selected. And then it's going to ask for the geodatabase that I'm going to go and export everything out to. Now, that's this before and after GDB. That's a file geodatabase with a feature data set that has the same exact spatial reference. And it then goes and exports out these individual feature classes that correspond to those parcel types inside the parcel fabric. I've also gone and created sort of background parcels for my layout only because, and I'll explain that logic as I go a little bit further in, but I've found in working through this, you need to have a clean set of data before it's been changed and edited in order to be able to go and show you what the before map looks like rather than everything else. So anyway, I've got this merged together. I can go and save this. I don't have to save it, but it goes and does that. Now, with this geoprocessing tool, if you have a file geodatabase and you have a feature data set, but you don't have anything in here, it will create these feature classes. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and export this out. And just an interesting part of this because it seems to take a while to run. But what it's really doing is it's looking through every one of those feature classes and it's looking to determine whether or not that global ID of the currently active record that I selected, whether or not that is anywhere on any of those features. Now, if you recall, I said this database has a 500,000 parcels in it. All right, so it has a 500,000 parcels. It has probably 1.5 million, if not 2 million lines. It's got lots, it's got blocks, it's got subdivisions, it's got PLSS information in there for because this is down in Florida. It's got a lot of information in there, and it has to go through each of those current and historic just to see whether or not they have that global ID included in there. But it goes and writes that all out. So now when I go in here, and for example, I can look at my parcels. If I actually open up this table here, what this table has is it has three features on here. This one down here that has nothing in the retired by record is my new parcel. And the other two are the two parcels that have been marked historic. So when it writes out into that sort of temporary geodatabase. It writes out those parcels that have anywhere on the created by or the retired by that same global ID. It writes it all out and says these are the parcels that have been affected by it. It also, by the way, writes out to the parcel lines. Get back over here to the parcel lines. If I open up that table, I have one line that was retired by. So if I want to go and also show the lines, I have those. And anything that's created that has that GUID on it, it will write it out into that database, or anything that's retired by it will have that database. Because I didn't do anything with lots, if I go and open up this table, there's nothing in there. So it only goes and writes out to that temporary geodatabase. It only goes and writes out those features, line or polygon features that have those global IDs of the selected record in there. So it's not like it's writing out 500,000 parcels every time, but it's going through and analyzing them before it writes them out. So it's important to remember what this is in here and how it's working and what it really does. Again, just to go back to this, it's pretty simple, but you've got to understand what this is working. So then let's get back here again and say, okay, well, that's how it works. It exports the features that are related to that record, and the relationships are either in the created by record or the be retired by record. And it then goes and exports them out into a simple feature class. There's no topology, there's nothing. This is purely to go and use in your map. That's all it's for. And then the next time you go and run this, it goes and changes this again. So then it goes and you have to go and put together this configuration for your map, your before and after map. So what I have on my configuration is let's go to the layout first. I have a simple layout. I have here a map extent. All right. I've created a map extent that has a configuration of what it looked like before. I have another one that has a configuration of what it looks like afterwards. Now you note this was sort of um, an older version of this, and so I had been zoomed into a different map extent. So in order to go and update this, what I do is I click on it to activate it, and I right click and I say zoom to my last extent, and it shows me that last extent on here. Click and say zoom to my last extent, and it then goes and zooms to my last extent on here. All right, so let's look at these before and after maps. By the way, this parcels here, this is actually reflective of this background parcels that I had exported out because I was showing you, in fact, what it looked like before I started any of this demo. And because I did that merge on here, it's still showing you that there was two parcels back there. All right, so this is the before map. So what this actually is I'm looking at the source documents that are located over in this before and after geodatabase, and I've clicked on these parcels, and then I've got a definition query against it that says, show me before, where the record is not null, where in fact, show me the historic elements on here. It goes and shows me that. So I've created that. The after is in fact what's afterwards on here. So let's go and take this off so it's a little bit easier to see what's actually going on here. Take that background parcels off. Here's the after, here's the before. When I put them in the layout, here is my after, here is my before. So you can see sort of You want to think about how you're going to go and show what everything else is around there. We can just as easily go and put a base map in there. Maybe we put some sort of imagery base map or some other type of base map, community base map or something behind here. And obviously this is in an area. Let's go and make this sort of 50% transparent on here. That's wrong one. 50% transparent on here to make it a little bit cleaner on here. I can go and take this same one and copy it and paste it over to this map. So that when I have this layout, I have the same thing in both. Again, there's lots of different things you can do for this background map on here. But right now it's just, okay, you want to show what the parcels look like before and the parcel look like afterwards. All right, that's the configuration of this map. You have two different map extents. You want to make sure that they have the same extent when you're comparing them. These are the various elements in here. I have the overall layout. I have the two map extents. I have a title here, before map title. When I click on this, you'll see it here. I have an after map title here. I have a north arrow, the minimum that we can do here. I have a before records, which goes and shows me what parcels are located in here. So the way I did that, that's actually a dynamic table, all right, which lists the table frame on, this is the map frame, this is the actual table that's pulling up and showing those that are visible inside of here. Again, because I'm pulling it from that exported feature classes, it only shows me those parcels that are retired now, that are or not before. All right. And then I can go in and set it up here also, which fields I actually want to display on here when I'm going and creating that. So I created one here for the before parcels, and then one here for the after parcels, set them up the same way on here, show what I want to go and see on my tables. And we can define this and create all sorts of different configurations in here. But I did that. I also here have a piece of dynamic text, which goes and shows me sort of the information that's stored in a certain field. So I've told it that I want to go and take the dynamic text out of, let's go and see if we, there's a configuration. This is out of the value field in my record, my parcel records table that it exported out here. That's this one here. And if I open this up just to see it, I have one record on here. And here's the actual name of it here. And that's what's going to show as my title up here. I have, again, properties on here. Click on here. This is, I can say parcel changes from, and just use that. So I can go and put that title up and have it dynamically reflect what that record was, what the name of that record was that went and produced this change on here. Again, there's a couple little changes in here, but this is a pretty simplistic map to put together. You can put this together in about 5 minutes, just sort of pulling it in. So that's the layout for this map. Workflow. Again, you take any record that you have, select that record, from the heads-up display. So it is selected. And I found myself in working through this, I often would forget to select it. It was active in my parcel fabric, but I would forget to select it. And then I would run the export feature records tool. I would then go, once I have all that data over in that table, I would update the layout so that it updated the extent of my parcel fabric. That was the last one I had, and then I would print it or share it. So let's go through real quickly and take another one that might be in here. And let's see what I've got here. Don't even know if I have any historic parcels in here that I can deal with. I've got a couple here. So let's choose a different one. That's good. All right. So you go and take this parcel. All right. Get off of the merge and select that parcel. This is my current parcel. I have a historic parcel here. My current parcel. Let's select this one. Let's go and now activate that parcel. Activate the record of that parcel. That's a merge, is the name of the record on here. And then let's select that. So now I know that that was a record that I had produced previously, and that was resulted in a merge of these parcels. So now let me go and run that geoprocessing tool. Again, it says I have one record connected in here. Let's go ahead and run that with that one record. And we'll go and run this. By the way, this is going to be a much shorter workshop than usual, only because I just wanted to go and show you the configuration on how to set this up and what's actually involved in running it. It's actually fairly easy to do. It takes a while to think about, what are you going to do with the other information that's in here? So just a hint, before I'm doing anything else, I want to think about what I'm going to show in my map here. And what do I want my final layout to be? Because what this is going to do is this is going to go and let's make sure I have the right same thing here. That is the merge. And let's undo that and then say, let's use that one. Make sure I only have selected that one record on here. All right, let's go and modify these properties just so that we can see this a little bit more. Okay. All right. There's the name. There it is. Okay. Let's run this tool again. Records. Wait for this to go and run. So just to check it, let's go and zoom to this layer. And then just to make sure that this is the same. All right. By the way, one of the things that you might, it'll help you when you're setting this up is that as I've created these two maps in here, if I go to my view tab, I can link these together so that these are going to be exactly the same scale and the center point on those as I'm going through. So that's one of the things I can do. And then when I go in here, I can click on this and again, right click and say, zoom this to the last active record. Click here and say, zoom this to the last active record. And there's my two parcels that were in here before, resulting in this one parcel. And I can go and take this and do the final step, which is either do the export or print this out on here. I can export this out to, for example, just a flattened PDF. And I'll put this out here and I'll tell it to export this out. Yeah, let's go ahead and all right. And let me go and open that up. There it is. So I'm looking, I don't see any questions on here. Is there any questions or comments on here? I have a question. How would you create a web map app that shows a before and after view of parcels in a parcel fabric? Are there any examples you know of where an app like that has been created? I suspect that you might do is use a map in which you would go and have a swipe capabilities in there. Maybe you use an instant map with the swipe tool on there, and on the one area you would show possibly the before and then possibly the after um, on there to be able to go and compare the two. You could have the two different parcels and be able to go and show the before and the after, having those as two separate feature services that you could compare what the two look like. On this, one of the interesting things about this is that you could actually do this on a record by record basis to go and export this out. Whereas with a web map, it's a much more dynamic. You'd almost have to go and set it up where you can do a selection of a record and then zoom to that record and then show the before and after, again, probably with a swipe tool on there to go and look at those two differences on here. But that's a good question. Yeah, this was how Esri has decided to go and answer the question of how can I create before and after maps for going and sharing this map with an assessor that has to go out in the field and see the differences between the before and after, or maybe document this change and print it out and put it into a folder or a file cabinet somewhere to show what those two changes are. Again, it's fairly primitive, but it still uses that whole concept of the fact that you've got some lineage with the parcel fabric and that you've got attribution now being put in either the created by record field or the retired by record field, and you use those two to figure out where things are and how they get changed on there. It's a good question. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this? Again, this was not going to be a long workshop, but I just wanted to go and show you some of these capabilities. All right, let's go back to here. So again, select the record that you want from the heads-up display, and this could be something you just did. For example, you can have it as part of your workflow now. You go and create the record, do the edits that you did. Once you've got that created, then go and in the heads-up display, make sure on the heads-up display say select this record. And that's an important part. You have to remember to do that. And then once you've got it selected, go over to the export feature record, export parcel record features again, and you can put that up on your easy access toolbar to then go and export it out and update it. And then once you've done that, you could have these three maps sync together as far as the same, and then go to your layout and then right click and say make sure you go and synchronize the extents of those layouts. That's the one area I couldn't figure out how to go and actually automate. You actually have to manually go to each of those extents.
Frank, before you wrap up,
I
Heather has a
see.
follow-up here.
If an organization has a multi-year repository of historic data, or they're considering migrating into the parcel fabric, would you recommend backfilling this information into the parcel fabric data model? Um, it's an interesting question. Backfilling into the parcel fabric so that all those backfills are reflective of the documents. Remember, a record is supposed to represent a document that caused a change. So that actually creating all of those and creating the records for those documents that caused those changes is daunting. It's very difficult. It's a challenge. It's not trivial at all to do. You could do it, not trivial. If you've got a multi-year repository, what you might consider doing is possibly making annual records and saying, this is what it all looked like with this one, or this is what it all looked like on this one, still marking it so that it at least had a, a value in there for that record. And you could say, this is 2021, 2022, 2023. Yeah, I might consider doing that. And that way you could pull up that record and be able to see what it looked like at that on there. Um, that might be a way of doing it. The only thing you will wind up dealing with when you do that is that with the parcel fabric, all right, you have one of the options inside there. If I go to the properties of the parcel fabric, all right, there is this option as far as the actual maximum number of parcels for the record polygon. It's a sort of obscure setting, but what you have to realize is that what this means is that once you get more than whatever that value is of record of parcels associated with a polygon, it will stop creating the spatial extent on those. It doesn't create a geometry for it. So that what you'll have is you'll have an actual table. You'll have a record in the table, but it will have no geometry. So you cannot zoom to it. You can find it and you could select all the records, but that's going to be selecting thousands and thousands of parcels associated with it. So that there's again there's some value, but there's also some disadvantages when you do large numbers of parcels associated with a single record. Um, it also has some impacts as far as being able to go and have a well-maintained spatial index because you then have a polygon with no geometry on it at all. And when that gets thrown in with all these other polygons, it has a detrimental effect on the spatial index. But again, that's one way to go and solve it. Um, I would question because again, this is primarily for maintenance. I would question whether you would even put that into the parcel fabric or just simply leave it as an external feature class and serve that up with your map and have that available as sort of a static image of what these things look like. Um, Always ask the question, even though you can, that doesn't mean you should. You want to go and recognize that unless you have all the lines associated with each of those parcels, when you went and did those updates, you're going to be creating data that's really not meaningful. So the question should always be, should you put it in the fabric if you're not maintaining them, but just keeping a sort of a repository of all those historic elements? If you're actively maintaining them, yes, by all means, it should be in the parcel fabric. Great question, Heather. Yeah. All right. What else do we have? Anything else?
I think
If
that's all.
All right. Well, again, you can integrate this into your daily workflows. Just remember this one here. Make sure you select it, run the export tool, and then make sure you update that layout extent for those two different layouts that you have in there. Right click and say zoom to the previous extent and the latest extent. Then you can share it and print it. All right. Questions? I think we took care of them. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.